This is our last problem in section 2.2, and it says that a publisher of a recently released nonfiction book expects that over the next 20 months after the book's release, the monthly profit, so this is the profit, and this depends on the number of months, is approximated with this model, right? So if you know the number of months since release, you can plug that number into here and get the approximate profit. Now, in part A, we're asked to do this. Get a model. Now, this is a model. When we say a model, we mean an expression. So get an expression that gives us a model of the marginal profit. Now, the marginal profit, the marginal is an economics way of saying the derivative. So we want the derivative of this function. Now, this function is, as you can see, globally quotient. So it's going to be the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom over the bottom squared. Let's see what we have. So P prime of t, our marginal profit, will be, all right, it's the bottom, which is quantity, t squared plus 20 times the derivative of the top. Now the top, this derivative is going to be, here's just t to the first, so that's going to be the coefficient, 120. And then here, we'll bring the 2 down as a multiplier. We'll get negative 60 decreased by 1, t to the first, so negative 60t. So here we have the bottom times the derivative of the top minus, right, there's that minus sign, the top, which is 120t minus 30t squared, times the derivative of the bottom. Now, the bottom, that derivative is just 2t. So we've got the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom, which is just that 2t, all over, right, all over the bottom squared. So we're going to have that t squared plus 20 squared. There's our calculus part. We'll clean it up with some algebra. So we'll multiply in. So I'll get P prime of t is equal to, now we need to multiply these polynomials together. All right, so I'm going to get t squared times 120. That'll give me 120t squared. And then t squared times 60, negative 60t, is minus 60t cubed. And let's move over to the 20. 20 times 120, well, 2 times 12 is 24, and we've got 2 zeros. So we'll get plus 2400, and then the 20 times negative 60t is negative 2 times 6 is 12, and I've got 2 zeros. So minus 1200t. Let's multiply in over here now. Now I'm going to run the negative with the 2t. So it'll be negative 2t times negative 120. So we will get, what are we going to have? Negative 240t squared. And then negative negative is positive 60t cubed. So positive 60t cubed all over, oh, we still have that t squared plus 20 squared in the bottom. Let's see what we've got up here in the top now. Well, let's see. All right, so P prime of t, our marginal, is, let's do our cubics first. So we're going to have, I've got cubes here, negative 60 of them, and then I've got positive 60 over here. So those cubics, they're going to cancel. Now, what about the quadratics? Let's go with the quadratics. I've got 120t squareds here, and negative 240 over here. So 240 minus 120, this is going to be negative 120t squared. All right, so we're going to have negative 120. Let's do it all in the same color. So we're going to do negative 120t squared. And then it looks like we've got that negative minus 1200t minus 1200t, and then plus 2400 all over t squared plus 20 squared. Okay, so I think we've actually got the answer here. Here's our expression for the marginal. But there are several things we could do with this. you notice that there's a negative, negative. It starts with a negative. Sometimes we don't like to start expressions with negatives, so we could factor a negative out of here. And just so you can see what it looks like, if I take that negative out, it looks like this. It changes all the signs. 120t squared plus 1200t minus 2400 over, all right, nothing changes here, t squared plus 20 squared. We could do that. Or I also notice, look at all these coefficients here. 120, what do we got here? 1200 and 2400. They all have 120 in common. I could factor out a negative 120, so I could write that like this. I could write it as negative 120, and then what's left? Well, what's left is the x squared, or t squared actually in this case. Forgot what I was writing here. So I can write t squared here. So take out that negative 120, I'll be left with t squared plus, now 1200 divided by 120 is just 10t, and then 2400 divided by 120 is just 20. And all of this is over that t squared plus 20 squared. So, any of these are going to work. That's our part A. Now in part B, what we want to do is find this marginal after 4 months. So if we're at month 4, if we go out one more month to month 5, how can we expect our profit to change? So what we're going to do, of course, is we're going to put that 4 into P prime. So P prime of 4 is going to be, now I'm going to use this one down here. It just seems to be a little easier. So I'm going to put this as negative 120 times 4 squared plus 10 times 4 plus 20 all over 4 squared plus 20, square all that. Now I did that on my calculator and I came out with this, negative 3.33. So I think that's going to be our answer to part B, and what it means is this book comes out. Now the publisher is going to make money off of it every month. But what's happening after 4 months, the book's been out for a while, what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen now is the profit is going to decrease. Now, this is in thousands of dollars, so the profit will decrease from month 4 to 5. In that next month, that 5th month, is going to decrease by what? $3.3 thousand. So about $3,300. We can expect the profit to go down. Now, in part C, what we want is, what's the marginal profit at 9 months out? So at 9, we're just going to go back to P prime and put in a 9. Now when I did that, I got negative 1.78. So 9 months out, and that next month, from month 9 to 10, the profit's going to go down, right, because of the negative, by $1.78 thousand. So about $1,780, that profit will decrease.